Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Fluctus channel. In military aviation, helicopters are used for several purposes, such as deploying an infantry unit, carrying artillery and ammunition, rescuing downed aviators, and serving as ground attack aircraft. However, helicopters have a higher crash rate as compared to planes, mainly because they are harder to fly than any other aircraft. A helicopter requires constant and precise input from the pilot to maintain stability and direction, especially while hovering in a low-speed situation, which is why approximately 33% of helicopter crashes are caused by pilot error. Helicopter crashes have a fatality rate of 1.3 deaths per 100,000 flight hours. These stats are a stark reminder of the danger associated with helicopter travel. If a helicopter crashes on land, the personnel and the helicopter can be recovered easily by executing sling loading, a process in which another helicopter is used to lift and transport the crashed helicopter and personnel to a safe location. On the other hand, if a helicopter crashes into the sea, the recovery becomes very challenging. Most of the time, the pilots never make it out alive. For this reason, the United States military trains its air crews and passengers to counter any challenge they might face if they ever crash a helicopter into the sea. The United States military focuses on every aspect to protect their pilots. After all, these men and women often operate in extreme conditions while handling advanced technical equipment. They particularly designed several stressful exercises to prepare pilots and crew for an emergency evacuation, or egress, in the event of a crash landing on water. These exercises are part of the helicopter underwater egress training, or HEWIT.
So what we do is we try to expose them to as many different scenarios as we can. They will go out in different types of exits. They will go out use different types of seat belts. They will use different types of seats. Sometimes they're seated right next to an exit. Sometimes they have to move to it. Some rides are blindfolded.
All of these exercises prepare pilots for emergencies involving water landing or ditching, and equip them with the skills required to safely escape from an aircraft that has crashed into the water. After pool training, the pilots get the chance to train in a more accurate and realistic environment, such as on a river or a lake. The pilots master the skill to maneuver in the water while wearing a complete flight suit. During the exercise, they also learn how to use the survival equipment available on the aircraft, such as lift jackets, life rafts, and signaling devices.
That is another thing you're going to have to contend with as you're making your way underneath here.
Additionally, the pilots perform post-egress procedures, like swimming away from the wreckage, providing first aid to other crew members, and signaling for rescue. When a pilot crashes a helicopter into the sea, the United States Coast Guard, USCG, is often the first to arrive at the scene, providing critical assistance to personnel in distress. The U.S. Coast Guard has strategically located search and rescue (SAR) units that provide swift response to distress calls and emergencies around the clock, 365 days a year. SAR is one of the U.S. Coast Guard's oldest missions, which focuses on minimizing the loss of life, injury, and property damage. The U.S. Coast Guard conducts an exercise called Water Emergency Training, WET, which literally immerses the crew in open water. The aviators cover all the essentials and learn to use life vests and rafts, open water survival, and search and rescue procedures. On October 16, 2013, the United States Coast Guard conducted wet drills on the Columbia River, which allowed the aircrew to review their survival equipment and learn how to use emergency flares properly. The aircrew used a life raft to learn how to survive in the case of an emergency water landing. Upon reaching the shore, they fired the flare to notify the SAR unit of their location. In the absence of a nearby shore, the personnel in distress must survive on a life raft until the helicopter locates them. Once located, the aircrew conducts hoist operations to recover the personnel and provide them with immediate medical attention. In addition to helicopter crashes, several other disastrous moments occur at sea, like a small boat capsizing out of nowhere. The U.S. Coast Guard conducts underwater egress training for each member if they ever find themselves in such a situation. In July 2013, a similar training was conducted at the Coast Guard Aviation Technical Training Center, located in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. During the exercise, the crew was placed inside a small boat, which was later turned upside down inside a pool. The goal of the crew was to unhook the restraints, get out of the boat, and reach the surface quickly. This exercise was also conducted in a harsh environment, with dim lights and artificial waves inside the pool, which allowed the crew to train for an event of a small boat capsizing during a storm. The U.S. Coast Guard uses small boats in vital SAR operations to recover personnel in distress at sea. For example, on September 10, 2008, a Cessna 210 Centurion plane crashed into the water due to engine failure. As soon as the plane landed in the water, the U.S. Coast Guard sent several small boats and helicopters to locate and recover them quickly. Luckily, there were no casualties. In case a helicopter crashes on land, the pilots, after getting a grip on the situation, go on to find a landing zone where they could possibly be recovered by fellow members of their unit. The helicopters flying overhead get the coordinates of the pilot in distress via satellite text message and recover them immediately. The United States Air Force conducts what's known as the mock-downed helicopter exercise to test the ability of a GPS-tracked alert system.
This is not only a great tool, obviously during combat, but even this can be applied in CONUS operations in the event that you do go down somewhere in a rural area where there's no cell phone coverage.
After locating the survivor, the fellow soldiers treated him as a prisoner until they verified his identity. A plane carries massive amounts of fuel on board. Therefore, when an aircraft makes a hard landing, the plane can catch fire, which could become completely uncontrollable in a matter of minutes. Hence, the United States has developed a separate aircraft and firefighting team that responds to and provides emergency aid to Marines during a hard landing. The members of the aircraft and firefighting team train for these situations by performing simulated drills multiple times a week to guarantee their readiness and response to emergencies. During this drill, the Marines equip hoses coming out of a fire truck and enter the aircraft. The extensive exercises and training scenarios provided to the aircrew, especially in the event of helicopters landing in water, allow them to handle unexpected situations effectively, reducing the risk of injury or loss of life. Therefore, investing time and money in comprehensive training programs is essential to safeguarding the well-being of those who serve in the skies. That's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of our new content. See you next time.